Hi everybody, how are you guys doing? So today I want to talk about chapter 3, Hierarchies, and the way I'm going to talk about it is in this way. Uh, yeah, I'm not going to do this one because right now we're just recording, so let's take this away. So I want to talk about reasons for patriarchy, dimorphism, and the Comanche, and then I want to talk about governments, all right? The U.S. government, and then Persia. So U.S. government today, and then we'll talk about Persia on Thursday. And you'll see how I'll do this, okay? So let's get started. Now, the first section is reasons for patriarchy. And again, we've started talking about civilizations, but let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to the hunter-gatherers. And these are examples of digging sticks that hunter-gatherers have used and that we think hunter-gatherers used in the past. Now think about these digging sticks. People can use these digging sticks to make holes in the ground and get certain plants like potatoes or maybe certain insects, okay? For most people around the world, insects are not taboo to eat. Now, for many people who grew up in the Judeo-Christian tradition and Muslim traditions, insects are definitely taboo to eat. But for many indigenous peoples, they're not. So hunter-gatherers in the past would definitely use these digging sticks to dig in the ground and dig for grubs, insects, and other types of grubs like that. However, it could also be used as a weapon to protect yourself, okay? So think of the digging stick, and the digging stick in time will be used for farming. Instead of digging for grubs or digging for natural plants, you can make a hole in the ground, deposit 1 or 2 seeds, cover it up. Another hole in the ground, seeds, cover it up. Okay, so digging sticks. This is a very old technology that could also function as a spear like this one, okay? Or as a staff, more like this one. Now, toward the end of the Neolithic, remember what Neolithic stands for? New Stone Age. That's right, New Stone Age, okay? Which is around 5500 before present or 3500 before Common Era. Remember the two dating systems. Around that time, that's the end of the Neolithic. People in different parts of the world start to develop what's called a plow. Think of it as a digging stick pulled by an animal, a domestic pack animal, okay? This makes a hole in the ground where people can drop seeds and then cover them up, okay? Now, the plow is going to allow for larger populations in plains and grasslands. They're very handy for this type of environment, plains and grasslands. They're not as good for mountainous regions. They're not as good for swampy regions, okay? So focus on plains and grasslands, all right? That's where you're going to have larger populations, and that's where eventually human beings will start forming empires, okay? Plow empires, if you will, all right? So the plow, knowledge of the plow is going to spread between 3500 and 600 BCE to parts of Europe, parts of North Africa, and the regions now occupied by India, Pakistan, and China. All right. Now your book, the book authors make a correlation between plow civilizations and greater patriarchy. Okay. So reason 1, and you can see the text. In my textbook is pages 66 to 68, chapter 3. Okay. Sometimes the page numbers are different. It is in chapter 3. Okay. Now, sorry, this is chapter 2. My mistake. This is chapter 2. 66 to 68 is chapter 2. So I'm reviewing some stuff from chapter 2 right now. So plow-agriculture, page 66, is definitely more intensive in the plains, okay? Again, you can't use it in the hills, and it tends to be men's work because men are gaining control over the domestic pack animals, okay? And usually these type of fields can be farther from the home. Okay, and women are specializing in raising children, in weaving. Okay, and this is going to lead to increasing patriarchy. All right, increasing patriarchy, according to the book authors. All right, this plow agriculture. Okay, fields are farther from the home, so a woman, especially if she's pregnant, cannot guide these domestic pack animals. They require a certain amount of control, and especially when a woman is pregnant, she has to stay closer to the home, and these fields tend to be farther from the home, according to the theory by the book authors. All right. Reason 2, and I think I tend to favor this view. So reason 1 was these fields are more distant from the home, and they're more intensive. These fields that are going to be plowed with a plow, they're going to be prepared for planting with a plow that makes a hole in the ground for seeds. Now, reason 2, plow agriculture is going to require some kind of domestic pack animal. Okay, and what's going to happen in all civilizations that I've studied, men are going to gain control of domestic pack animals as pastoralists. Okay, and part of the reason, I think, is sexual dimorphism, and I'll explain what that means in a sec. Okay, and pack animals will lead to more success for men, and more economic success for men, and more political success for men, because these animals are going to multiply the power of men. It can be, again, by pulling these plows, or it could be in war. Think of horses, think of camels, okay? Or trading, if they become merchants. Think of donkeys or horses pulling a cart, all right? So as women are tied more to the home, men are going to gain control of these pack animals, which will multiply their power in many societies. Not all, but in many societies, all right? My proof is that you have hunter-gatherers becoming pastoralists in more recent times. In the 1600s and 1700s, the Comanches will go from being hunter-gatherers living in Nevada to becoming pastoralists in a region between New Mexico and Arizona, parts of Texas, and they'll control an empire, and they'll become pastoralists. They'll become pastoralists first, and they'll use the power of horses to create an empire. Okay? And men in Comanche society will gain more political and economic power over women than what had occurred previously when the Comanche were living in Nevada as hunter-gatherers. All right. Part B, as a proof, could be the Mongol Empire. Mongol women do have a lot of power, but not as much power as men. Mongol women tend to have more power than women in agricultural plow societies. Yes, they do. But again, Mongol women will not have as much power as men. And again, Mongol men will use horse wealth to multiply their economic and political power. All right. For example, in either the Comanche Empire or the Mongol Empire, if you're a young man and your family has some wealth, some horse wealth, you can lead raids into other people's territory, and you can get other people to follow you because you can provide them with horses. All right. And so get your friends, maybe your friends are not as wealthy as you, but you can provide them horses and they'll follow you. There is a high degree of personal leadership. You also have to have good leadership to maintain that power. But if you have horse wealth, that makes it so much easier for you to become a leader in either the among the Mongol people or among the Comanche people. All right. Now, let me talk about sexual dimorphism and the Comanche. All right, sexual dimorphism are differences in appearance between males and females of the same species, such as in color, shape, size, and structure, that are caused by the inheritance of one or the other sexual that are caused by the inheritance of one or the other sexual pattern in the genetic material. One of the most common types of sexual dimorphism is a difference in size. Either the male or the female of a species will be larger. Okay, and I've presented some examples. All right, these are some animals, and we can consider ourselves animals as well. So size difference is one type of sexual dimorphism, one type of difference between males and females of the same species. Okay, so what I want you to do is, if you need to, pause this video, and I want you to think, and I want you to tell me, or write in your notes, actually not tell me, but write in your notes, which one of the species is larger among anacondas, eagles, humans, hyenas, lions, and wolves. Which animal of the species is larger? So please pause the video, and if you guys want to guess, go ahead and guess, and I'll review the answers in a few seconds. Okay, so pause the video. All right, now I'm going to review the answer. Among anacondas, females are larger. Among eagles, females are larger. Among humans, males tend to be larger. Among hyenas, females are larger. Among lions, as we've already learned, males are larger. Among wolves, males are larger. Now, as I mentioned, humans are larger, and think about how this affects specializations in different societies across time. And again, we're going from hunter-gatherers to agriculturalists. How is that affecting societies? Okay, and to give you another perspective, I'm going to put up this video about hyenas. Okay.
Tastiest food rarely makes its way down to him, and there's no way to move up the social hierarchy besides simply waiting, either for new males to join the clan below him, or for males ahead of him to die. No adult male will ever top a single female, resulting in a female-dominated hierarchy. This is all weird. Unlike most mammals, male hyenas are subordinate to females, which is probably because, unlike most mammals, female hyenas are bigger and meaner than males, which is probably thanks to their need to stand up for their offspring in this kind of crazy feeding frenzy. And, unlike pretty much all mammals, physically fit or socially capable individuals can't make their way to the top of hyena society to do most of the decision and baby making. They're the only social mammals we know of with such a rigid hierarchy, and we don't yet know why. We do know the outcome, though. Male hyenas like Scarface end up plagued with injuries from harassment and hazing, endure prematurely worn-down teeth from eating too many bones, and on average only live half as long as females do. The best they can hope for is that, at the end of the day, they'll have left behind a few cubs, which is not the best for the ones that turn out to be males. While I was getting my PhD, I spent several years in Kenya studying hyenas like Scarface, and the rest of the Minute Earth team has done amazing research and explored all sorts of cool places, too.
All right, so we've talked about, I showed you a video about lions, so this one's about hyenas. If you guys want to look at it, again, this is the website, all right? Now, I want to talk about, I want to talk about the Comanche people. And again, we have historic information about the Comanche people. And between 1600 and 1700, they lived in what is now Arizona. I think that's about right here. All right. And they were hunter-gatherers. Okay. We have accounts, written accounts about the Comanche people being hunter-gatherers. All right. Now, by 1706, they've acquired some horses, all right, and they've entered like the U.S. Southwest, somewhere in this region. And then between 1750 and 1850, they're going to become fully nomadic society, fully nomadic pastoralists, all right? They're going to travel with their horse herds. And in this region, you have very rich grasslands populated by buffalo. So they're going to use horses to hunt buffalo. And they're going to use a lot of the products of the buffalo to trade at Comanche trade fairs, Comanche-dominated trade fairs. And they're also going to, as I mentioned before, you're going to have raiding expeditions, Comanche raiding expeditions to different parts of the Spanish Empire. And they're going to capture cattle, horses, and humans. And they're also going to bring many of those humans, horses, and cattle to these trade fairs, and they'll try to ransom the humans. Usually in their raids, they'll keep women and children, and they'll kill the men in their raids down into this part of the Spanish Empire. All right, and what they do is they divide the Spanish Empire into different provinces. So they deal directly with the Spanish governors, and they have an agreement with the Spanish governors here not to raid in return for tribute. So the Spanish governor here gives them tribute. The other governors don't agree to, and so they get raided. Okay, and they're the predominant group for introducing horses to indigenous peoples in all around here. Okay, and the horses are from this region called New Spain, what's now Mexico, where you have very wealthy ranches with horses, cattle, donkeys, and so on. All right. Now, in the Comanche Empire, again, these horse herds are a source of wealth, and they're going to increase the power of the men. Because again, men who have a few horses, they can propose a raid to their friends. And if their friends are poor, it doesn't matter, because the leader, let's say I'm the leader, I have a few horses and I can let them borrow some of my horses so we can raid. And if I'm successful, I'll get a large portion of what we captured, okay? Or who we captured, all right? And then my friends will also get portions of who or what we captured as well. My standing will rise, and if I keep leading successful raids, my standing will continue to rise. But women don't have access to these raids, okay? If they do, there might be some exceptions, but women will be the exception. Those will be exceptions to the rule. Most of these raids are led by men who increase their horse wealth. Both the leader and his followers will increase their horse wealth and their wealth in also domestic slaves. I'll talk more about domestic slaves later, and also in other pack animals kept in ranches. Okay, so women's influence will decline within her tribe, and they do have influence through intertribal societies. Women do, but again, men can attain more political and economic power through these raids. The Comanche have peace chiefs and war chiefs, and the peace chiefs tend to be these very successful raiders. War chiefs tend to be younger. Okay, younger. They tend to be again these leaders who lead these successful raids. Those are the war chiefs. The peace chiefs will tend to be older. Okay, they negotiate treaties with other people. So peace chiefs would negotiate treaties with the Spanish governor. All right. Now, this could be something you guys do. This could be an exercise. Think about going back in time, and how could you live with them as observers? All right. So the Comanche. Think about. All right. This could be something we do on Tuesday. Now, I want to talk about governments. Okay. The U.S. government right now, and Persia on Tuesday. What I want you to think about is, I talked about the Comanche Empire. And for me, an empire is a political and economic entity that administers and regulates a region that includes populations of different ethnicities. All right. Now, if we talk about the Comanche Empire, they definitely had people of other ethnicities living close by. They had some control over people in this area, people in this area. All right. Again, because of their power. If we talk about the U.S., is the U.S. an empire? Is the U.S. an empire? Does it have territories? It has states that make up the country, the United States, but it also has territories like Puerto Rico, like Guam. Okay? Are people who live in these states of different ethnicities? Are people who live within the U.S. of different ethnicities? Okay? So by my definition, is the U.S. an empire? Now, like other empires, the U.S. has a government that has different levels. The high government is at the top. Okay, this high government is it's called the federal government. It's in Washington D.C. Think about how they divide this. In this government, you have a division of powers: legislative, executive, judicial. Legislative, the power to pass laws; executive, the power to enforce laws; judicial, the power to interpret laws. Now, I'm also going to mention another power that in the U.S. doesn't matter as much as it's going to matter for the people we study: religious power. You have a lot of people in the U.S. That follow different religions. We don't have a person in charge of all the holding all of the religious power in the U.S. For Catholics, the person that they follow on earth is the Pope. He's the highest religious authority. For Protestant denominations, it depends. Like evangelical Christians. Or think about Hindus or Muslims. Who do they follow? Who's their ultimate political authority on earth? Okay? So religious power is divided in the U.S. because people follow different religions. Is that going to be the case with the empires we study in the class? Pay attention to what the book authors write about. Pay attention to the primary sources at the end of the chapters. Okay? Think about taxes and monopolies. Okay? Are they allowed or not allowed? Or how do they get taxed? Actually, taxes are definitely allowed. But think about how in the high government, how they get taxes, what kind of taxes you pay. All right? We also have a middle government. All right? Middle government 1, the state level. We live in California. Legislative, we have a Senate and an Assembly. Executive, the governor. And to enforce laws, the governor can use institutions like the Highway Patrol. Have you guys been caught speeding on the freeway? Were you given the ticket by the Highway Patrol? So the Highway Patrol, again, that's an example of an institution at the middle government level. Okay? Middle government 1, Highway Patrol. All right? California Supreme Court. That's the highest court in the state of California. All right? Middle government 2, the county level. You have the sheriffs. They go by county. You have superior courts. Okay? Again, think of taxes and monopolies. And the last level of government is the local government. Think of the city you live in. Think about the legislative and judicial. Okay? Think about the mayor and the local police executive. So the council, the city council usually has, in most cities, they have legislative and judicial power. Okay? The executive, the mayor, he has executive power, the power to enforce laws. Think about the local police, okay? That institution at the local level that enforces laws. All right, who passes those laws? Those city laws? The legislative, okay? And they also enforce some state laws, like laws for murder, like laws for education. In the U.S., education laws are usually passed at the state level, okay? So think about that. So high, middle, local. And let me change this. This is high government. And in the US, it's a federal government. Think of this division. Think of this division for the different empires we're going to study, or the different kingdoms we're going to study. Because these governments, they're hierarchical, and they'll tend to have at least two levels, at least a high level and a local level. And empires will tend to have at least three levels: high, middle, and low. Okay? So today I talked about reasons for patriarchy. I talked about sexual dimorphism and the Comanche. And I talked about governments, the US government. Okay? So today, and this division: high, middle, low. Division in governments and four powers. Remember those? Do you remember those four powers? Legislative, judicial, executive, and religious. All right. Thank you very much, you guys. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.